Welcome on stage, Xoliswa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sylvia, for that introduction. And really, I won't be that long. My topic really today is about navigating IoT security challenges. That is a proactive approach and strategies and practices. I think most of us here are already aware about the technological advances that we are experiencing, and it's happening so rapid. And with this change, we are seeing more and more devices that are coming into the network, and we're also seeing as well IoT growing as well, and we are expecting IoT to start exploding in the near future with all the benefits that it brings to organizations, to industries, that is driving business efficiencies and sustainability. So with all that comes cyber threats or IoT threats, and really the whole presentation today is around how to then navigate those IoT threats, taking a more proactive approach within the IoT space. Okay, so I'm going to start by introducing IoT, what IoT is, what IoT is not, and after that, I will cover IoT value and the common use cases. I think IoT has demonstrated value to many organizations, and so we're going to be looking at that as well, what are the common use cases, where it has been implemented, and then the high-level IoT architecture. And this really, it's important to understand the entire architecture and the entire ecosystem to be able to understand exactly where cybersecurity comes in. And then we'll be talking about then cybersecurity threats in the IoT ecosystem, IoT security best practices, how to secure IoT ecosystem, and the IoT security considerations, particularly including partners as well. Sorry. I think. Okay. Introduction to IoT. IoT is a network. So when you're talking about IoT, we're talking about a network of physical devices, machines, and other objects that use sensors and software to collect data and exchange it over the internet, enabling remote monitoring and control. So when you're talking IoT, we're basically talking about the entire ecosystem, from the sensors, it could be actuators, it could be machines running in an organization. So basically all the devices that are able to connect, devices that are collecting data and are able to connect to the internet or the network. And that information then gets processed through until we are able to then generate insights from that data. So when we're talking about Internet of Things, we're not necessarily talking about the device, but we're talking about the ecosystem. From the device up until we generate those insights. Oh, sorry. Okay, so these things that you're talking about, what are these things that you're talking about? I've mentioned quite a few already. I've mentioned industrial sensors and actuators. So these are devices that are used in an industrial setting, and they could be used for monitoring equipment performance, for detecting anomalies, for providing early warning signals. And it could also be your cameras, your surveillance cameras in the security space, so those also form part of the IoT ecosystem. That could also include your wearable devices, so those as well form part of the IoT ecosystem. Most of us have smartwatches that we are using, and that means we are also taking part into the in the IoT ecosystem. Smart glasses, and these as well are also used in industry as well for safety and for asset tracking. So there are many use cases that they can be used for. And there are also biomedical devices that are being used in the health sectors. So those are also devices. Civil engineering structures in bridges, in railways, there's devices that are being used. Considerably anything in the world that is able to collect the data and able to connect to the internet, basically forms part of an IoT ecosystem. IoT value. So what exactly does IoT bring? What is the value that IoT brings into an organization? So IoT provides a foundation to build smart connected devices that enable a detailed understanding of how your assets, processes, businesses, and customers operate. So in a nutshell, what that means is that it provides visibility into your operational environment. It gives you transparency of how your operations basically are performing. So you are able in real time as well and remotely. So that is basically the IoT value. If you are able to the transparency and the visibility that you have, that enables you to take informed business decisions because it's all data-driven. So basically, it provides data insights about your business environment, including your people, your processes, your customers, your assets. So basically, that is the IoT value driving efficiencies. When you have that information, then it means you are able then to take informed decisions that enable you to drive efficiencies within the organization. The applications of IoT are versatile. Practically in every business model and industry can earn substantial benefits with the right approach. So if you look at just giving you examples in the telecom space, IoT can be used for remote equipment monitoring. It can be used for predictive maintenance. It can be used for anomaly detection, enable warning signals. And I think in many of the presentations earlier today, early detection has been mentioned by almost each and every presenter, that you need to have early warning signals. So IoT provides that kind of benefits. In the utility space, it can be used for energy management, water management, predictive maintenance, everything else that applies to the top, it also applies to the utilities as well. Manufacturing, remote equipment monitoring, inventory management, safety, operational efficiencies, quality control. There are just so many benefits that IoT brings into an organization. Logistics companies, asset tracking, inventory management, supply chain visibility from beginning to end. So IoT is able to provide that. Agriculture, there's many use cases of IoT, literally in most of the industries. So in a nutshell, the IoT value really is about offering transparency, visibility, efficiencies, and enhancing sustainability in organizations. Okay, and now the high-level overview of the IoT architecture, or rather the IoT ecosystem, all the components that make up IoT. So the first one, we have your device. On the picture there, we have an industrial device, PLCs. It can be any device that we are using, sensors, actuators, machines, as mentioned earlier, any type of device. So that's the device. That the device basically collects information, and this device, it can actually be on the edge, Okay, it can be a sensor or an edge device, and that information from that device uses connectivity. It uses connectivity. So in order for you to be able to transmit the data, you need the data. The object needs to have connectivity. There's different types of connectivities that are available to get the information processed and transferred into the cloud. That is if the cloud is being used. So there are instances where the data is processed on the edge, where cloud is not necessarily used, but basically it's from the device, there's connectivity, and then it goes to the cloud. Then you can then integrate into the applications, and that is where insights really are being generated, and that is where the real value comes from for organizations, those insights that are being generated. Once this data is integrated into all the applications and actions on IoT data are being taken. Okay, what are the IoT best practices at the moment? So the first one is IoT security. Sorry, I'm so used to the word IoT. IoT security best practices. So the first one is think security from the start. And this basically means that security should not only be considered as an afterthought. From the beginning by design, security needs to be a key design principle for all IoT assets. So when we start to design the solution, we need to look at the IoT security aspects as well. I've been in the IoT space, not in IT in general, for more than 25 years, and I think security was not really taken as a major aspect of design. So yes, it would be considered, and we would just say these are the security considerations, but really wouldn't look at security from the design of the solution. Only when the popo hits the fan, then the security department would get involved. So it's critical with all these cybersecurity threats, and as a best practice as well, with solution development, whether IoT, whether IT, any type of digital securities, that security needs to be considered as a key design principle. The second one is rely on experts. Ensure that security is a fundamental aspect of all IoT-related activities and ingrained in every IoT decisions. So it's important to involve the experts with all the IoT implementations. Security is key. Security experts needs to be part of the implementation. The third one is understand security is a moving target. So security is not only in the code, but also in the attitude towards risk. It's crucial to acknowledge the existence of threats and malicious actors. So it's more towards attitude towards risk as well, and it goes with creating awareness as well, and understanding that it is a moving target, meaning that new security threats will be coming through, and therefore we constantly need to review and revise our IoT security strategies within the organization. How do we secure our IoT devices? The first fundamental basic one is to ensure that the default credentials are changed, and be able to ensure that we use a strong, unique passwords. So what normally happens is that when a device is purchased from a vendor, it usually comes with default settings. And I think an example was made earlier on, admin. Oh, I only have 5 minutes. Yeah, so that was the default credentials that were not changed. Okay, I'll try and go quick. So that's the first one. Ensure that you change all the default credentials. The second one, regular updates, the firmware of software. It has to be regularly updated, ensuring that you install the latest security patches. And this is the problem most of the time when the vendors are no longer supporting the environment. Then the device is not patched, then it's exposed. Okay, use strong encryption. Yeah, encryption it's important, and I think it has been mentioned earlier as well. It's important to encrypt to ensure that the protocol that you're using to transmit the data in your network, the data is encrypted. Secure your network. The notes there. You need to ensure that your network is secured. And earlier on, I think the speakers have mentioned the firewalls. So the firewalls are important. You need to ensure that the network is secured, and each and every level should be secured. Regularly monitoring the devices, performing regular security audits. Okay, the usage of strong authentication and authorization methods, and I think the most critical one, and has been mentioned prior as well, is the education. It's important to provide education on IoT security risks and best practices. The other proactive approach to take with the IoT ecosystem partners as well. As a customer also, it's important to ask specific questions to ensure. The first one is the platform certified for compliance? Can either be ISO 27001, ISO 27017 with the IoT standards. So basically, when bringing in an IoT solution provider, it's important to ensure that whatever platform that they are implementing, or rather that they are using to implement IoT solutions, is certified for compliance. Is the architecture or the platform architecture designed to protect the physical network, the application, and access control? And this is the end-to-end that we spoke about earlier. The end-to-end architecture of IoT. The third one is, has the platform been graded by SLL Labs? SLL is secure socket layer, and there's also transport layer security. So these basically provide certificates and digital certificates that are used to safeguard the internet-based communication between IoT devices and servers. Will you be able to secure the data between the tenants or groups of your IoT solution? The last thing you want is to have all the organizations or all the customers serviced by the service provider on the same tenant. So it's very important as well to ensure that the tenants are able to be separated. Is communication secure with the platform's API? And how are servers, storage, and network devices physically secured? The next one, I'm trying to go very quickly here. So in conclusion, we're saying that addressing IoT security challenges demands a comprehensive and proactive approach that prioritizes risk management, continuous monitoring, and collaboration among stakeholders. So by adopting proactive strategies and best practices, organizations can strengthen their cybersecurity posture, safeguard sensitive data, and ensure the integrity and reliability of IoT systems. Thank you. I hope
Thank you.
I made it on time.
Yeah, thank you, Xoliswa. Thanks for that presentation. Do we can take 1 or 2 questions before we break for lunch. Yes, 1, 2, I see. We've got a question there. So, interesting times, right? That we can own things.
Hello?
Use your shop steward voice
Hi.
if it's not working.
Hi, Xoliswa, this is Ora. I'm from Bridgestone Firestone Tires, heading the IT and the OT division. So, oh, okay, can you hear me now? All right. On the OT space, the space that you've been talking about, we have a lot of problems, especially when it comes to change. A lot of people don't like change on that side. Like most of the plants that I've worked with, they have PLC or other equipments that are more than 20 years old. And they still live in this concept of don't change it until it breaks. So how do you navigate through that? How do you convince people to change these things while they're still working? Because you know the equipment on that side is a bit expensive. But now we're going into an era where we're more data driven and we need to be proactive and not wait for stuff to break. Because in my industry, I struggle to push change and awareness. So maybe you can give me advice on how I get to change the people, because we're dealing with people that are like a year or 2 years from pension now. They'll tell you, don't touch this. You know, so maybe you can give me advice on how to change the mindset of those people in the plants.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that is a problem in general, not only in the OT space, but just IT in general. And I think it requires more of a comprehensive approach where you take your people along in the journey. Take the people along in the journey. Communicate the strategy. You know, communicate to the people where the organization is going so that they understand that, you know, all these changes that are happening are not just happening, you know, just for the sake of it, but they are happening to improve business efficiencies, to, you know, the business results. So it's important to take the people along with, explain to them, let them understand that it's not their job that is at stake, but also explain to them the risk of not changing. What I think, what I've seen in the past is that when people understand why they're doing what they're doing and why they need to change, then they are even more willing to become participants in the change process. So make them part of that change.
Sure. We had a question there. Oh, you covered. Thank you. Thanks, Xoliswa. A round of applause for Xoliswa.